Hey everyone, I'm Nick Cox and this is Achilles 1. But quickly before we get into that, I'd like to address something that might become obvious throughout the video, and that is, I have broken my wrist. Which is why there's not been a video since, I believe, early May, because this has greatly limited my capacity to, make progress on any projects I had in mind or, had planned. But thankfully, as it's healing, I'm starting to get back into the swing of things, so hopefully you'll hear from me more soon. But in the meantime, Achilles 1 is my debut model rocket, designed and built entirely in-house. It's constructed from a literal paper towel roll with a 3D printed nose cone, a set of 3D printed fins, and a 3D printed motor mount. It was powered by the venerable Estes C6 motor, and theoretically is recovered by a parachute, though of course, as we'll see later, things didn't exactly go to plan with that. Whilst Achilles is officially my first model rocket launch, in early 2020, when I first started getting into this type of stuff, I did 3D print and attempt a launch of this little thing. Now, resulting from a complete absence of knowledge on the subject matter was a pretty spectacular flight failure that, frankly, included some pretty extreme safety shortcomings, which is why the video's never been shown in this format. I do not want to be advocating for or promoting that type of absence of safety procedure, especially with something as dangerous, possibly dangerous, as model rocketry. But anyway, so as my first launch of a vehicle which had undergone at least something resembling a competent design process, I would consider the launch of Achilles 1 to be completely successful. The first attempt at launch saw a motor ignition anomaly.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
However, after addressing this, the second attempt at launch was, in my eyes, a complete success.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I mean, as you can see by the video, I was, obviously really quite excited. The liftoff was perfect. Achilles shot up like a rocket, I suppose. Now, there was, initially I was a little bit worried about the actual orientation, the attitude during ascent, as to my eye, one of the fins was mounted imperfectly onto the airframe. However, I didn't really notice any deviation from the vertical. It actually shot up quite straight, so I'm really, really happy with that. So whilst the cause isn't exactly obvious to me right now, there was a pretty substantial overperformance of the rocket, and that led to a pretty extreme increase in apogee compared to what was expected from simulations. A large enough increase in altitude that I'm going to refrain from giving any, numerical estimates here. This is a particularly good point to segue into, a quick conversation regarding safety. I'd like to emphasize the extreme significance of safety and legality when launching model rockets. It's really important you follow all your local laws, ensure you're launching in a location that is safe for both you and everyone around you and aircrafts, and ensure you're engaging in practice that doesn't endanger anyone, whether it's yourself, other people, or a plane in the sky. It's really, really important to be safe and stay within the limits of the law. Right, so besides all these really quite wonderful results, the only real failure of the launch was a pretty apparent lack of parachute deployment. In fact, in the video, I think you can hear the ejection charge go off. But then obviously the nose cone did not eject, so the parachute remained in the rocket body, surprisingly unscathed. It seems pretty clear to me that I used far too much wadding which is like, for those who don't know, it's a paper sort of that doesn't burn through, so the ejection charge does not, melt your parachute. Instead, it sort of, when it burns the wadding, it creates pressure, I suppose, that pushes the nose cone off and therefore deploys your parachute. But yes, that did not happen in this flight. I think there was one piece of wadding that was slightly charred and the rest of it was completely fine. I definitely went way overboard, so that's an important lesson for the future. But obviously this resulted in an absence of parachute deployment, so the vehicle came down on a particularly nose-first descent, slamming itself into the ground and entrenching itself deep into some mud. Thankfully, that absorbed most of the energy, so actually the nose cone was not even remotely damaged. The only real damage actually was the motor mount was insufficient to deal with some of the forces, so it seems that maybe around the point of the ejection charge, or actually potentially at impact with the ground, the motor mount was knocked free, so it was moving around in the underside of the rocket. Now it's obviously not in there now, I took it out. In fact, I can go retrieve that. Look at that. There is the motor mount. You can see all sort of cracks up the body, breakage all along here. Now this damage on the ring is not from the launch or any anomalies therein. That was actually me trying to get it out of the body, because this was just, it was up in here moving around all freely and I couldn't quite get it out without breaking it. But yeah, so that's probably one of the only other failings, is there needs to be more substantial motor redesign, but that's quite an easy feat on this scale, so that's pretty good. But yeah, beyond that, nothing was really damaged. The mud absorbed most of the energy of the collision, as far as I can tell. But it was a real hassle getting that out. I think I've got some nice video of it, actually. So that went ridiculously high. That actually seemed like a good flight, except for the fact that the parachute didn't deploy. It seems like the motor mount has came way loose. Oh, it's stuck in there. Oh, the nose cone.
Nice.
The nose. There's water in the nose. Oh, gross. I'm not getting that out. Oh, it's so muddy. Oh, I'm literally gonna break the thing trying to get it out. The wadding didn't go. You're kidding. So as you can see there, there is pretty limited damage to the vehicle. It could probably be reflown at some point. Yeah, you just really had that breakage, or the distortion more so, in the motor mount, which I now realize is not evident in the previous clip because the camera will not focus on the motor mount. But yeah, beyond that, the only real other damage is the actual parachute mount in the nose cone is missing, because in the rigorous effort to liberate Achilles from the mud, it did unfortunately get snapped off. But I still think that's pretty good for a launch vehicle that was made of paper towel and 3D printed and then fell from the altitude it did. I'm pretty satisfied with that level of repairs which would need to be done. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty evident in the previous clip. The wadding is almost certainly responsible for the parachute deployment anomaly, shall we say. I definitely was far too cautious with the amount of wadding I used, and that obviously was detrimental to the deployment system. But again, it's a pretty easy thing to address in the future. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with that. I think I've had a really fun time filming and making, and then obviously launching Achilles 1. I think the seeing it shoot up as it did and work so well was probably one of the greatest feelings ever. That was a really fun day, and I really appreciate you guys taking your time out of your day to come and check Achilles out and see what I have to say about it. I really appreciate that. Thanks so much, by the way, for all the reviews. Sorry, not reviews. All the views on the X43 video. I think that almost hit 2,000. I think that was 1.7k or something. That is really tremendous. Thank you very much. I'd like to see this video surpass that even. So if you enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate you liking, commenting, and sharing with friends, and perhaps subscribing if you're interested in seeing where I go in the future. I've learned a lot of really good lessons from Achilles, and I'm really excited to see where that takes us in future projects. But for now, have a really good day. Thank you so much.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.